Welcome, Board Game Enjoyer. My name is Carl, and this is what I played this weekend. Starting off, I played Horseless Carriage. Now, this is a heavy economic game from Splotter. In this game, you are building cars right at the dawn of the automobile. So these are the quote-unquote horseless carriages. This game is very thinky in that you are looking at a sort of grid in front of you and you are building cars, adding car parts, and it's kind of a polyomino, but it's a very tight space. So you really have to think about how you are building out your grid, and then you also have to look and see, okay, which car parts are going to be available for the next round, which car parts are going to be in demand next round, because after you've arranged your grid, then you are going to sell your cars. And selling cars is based on how many of those car parts you have that are currently in demand. And then you have these sort of rings that, depending on how your marketing is for your cars, will depend on how much space your dealership covers on the actual map where the cars are coming out. So if you don't have any marketing, you have just a very small 1x2 ring to cover up space. Once you add more marketing, you get a bigger ring, and so on. It's a lot to think about, and we did get one or two rules kind of a little bit wrong. I don't think it affected the game enough to make a huge difference, but it's definitely a game where I'm going to need to play it at least one more time before I really can wrap my head around everything. I did enjoy it, though. I think the puzzle of it is very enjoyable to kind of work out. Like I said, you've got a very limited space on your board, and once anything is placed on that board, it's there for the rest of the game. You cannot move anything, you cannot remove anything. So it's a very thinky puzzle in that way. Now, on the other hand, there's a lot of freedom in how you build out your board, because there's essentially no cost to add things to your board. You can add a car at any time. You can add an additional dealership or additional marketing. You can add planning offices and research offices, which will allow you to research better car parts, which, if they're in demand, that's better for you because you can add them to your cars. But everything you add to the board is taking up space. And then if you want to sell different types of cars, then you have to figure out, okay, now I need to make room for this new type of car, and that car needs to have different parts attached to it. And the other thing is that if you have a single dealership, and that dealership is selling two different cars, only the car with the lower number of parts, only those parts are going to count for you when you're selling. So whatever the demand is, it's only going to be based on that car. And so it's very, very thinky of how you set up your board. And one of the things you can do is, if you have a single car part, you can set your board up so that car part kind of traces a line back to two different cars. So that means both of those cars can use that single car part. So it's this puzzle of figuring out how to set everything up. It's very fascinating. Really good game. It's from Splotter. This is the third Splotter game that I've played after Food Chain Magnate and Indonesia. I don't know if this one would ever supersede Food Chain Magnate for me. That is one of my absolute favorite games. But I do think in time, playing this more and more, I will grow to love this one a lot. And that is Horseless Carriage. So the next game that I played, this is one that I had been wanting to try. It's called Orichalcum, and this is a interesting game. So essentially what you're doing in this game is you are, on your turn, you're choosing a card, and this card is going to give you a tile, and it's also going to give you one of the 4 main actions. Now the tile is going to be placed on your board. You have a map board in front of you, and you're adding this tile to that map board. Now the tiles have either 1, 2, or 3 sort of circles on them, and each circle has a different environment type, and I believe there's like 3 or 4 different environment types. And when you place it on the board, it has to be adjacent to one that's already there. And what you're trying to do in building your board is set up spaces where you have 4 different terrain types, because then you can build a temple on them. I'll kind of get into what that means in a minute. There's also volcanoes. The volcanoes spawn creatures, and you need to defeat the creatures. One of the 4 actions is to fight those creatures. And then the other actions are construct, and there are 2 different production actions. One is for hoplites, which are these little blue soldiers, and the other is produce orichalcum crystals, which are these little gold crystals. And then, so you're always taking a card. The action on it is optional, and there are situations where you may not be able to take the action just because you don't have the right resources, or you don't have, what you need to complete it. Maybe it's a fight action and there's no creatures on your board to fight. So the other things that you can do are, like I said, you want to create the 4 different terrain types to build temples. But the other thing you want to do is create at least 3 of the same type, because what this does is it draws attention to the titans, or it draws the attention of the titans. And these titans give you a special ability when you take a specific action. And so one of them, when you produce gold, for instance, may double the amount of gold you produce. Or when you construct, you may get an additional construct action. So the titans are very powerful, but if another player also creates a space of 3 of the same terrain or more, or expands one even, they will be able to steal that titan from you. And why are you doing all these things? So the goal of the game is to get 5 points. Now you can get points in a couple different ways. Every time you build a temple, that's 1 point. When you have the attention of a titan, that's 1 point. When you use the construct action to construct a gold coin by spending 5 of the gold orichalcum resources, you construct a coin, that's a point. And so throughout the game, it's essentially a race to get to 5 points. And the points that you have are not always permanent, because the titans can be stolen. Now, normally you can only have 1 titan at a time. However, there are certain buildings that you can construct which will allow you to hold more titans, and there's a bunch of different ones that will give you different abilities that you can use throughout the game. I really liked this game. I do. It is a race, so it is as soon as a player has 5 points and they have also eliminated all the creatures from their board, they instantly win the game. I really liked this game. It's pretty quick. I think we got it done in about an hour, maybe even a little less than an hour. It's a very smooth system. The only thing that I feel is a little bit strange about the game is each round, once the round is finished, the start player becomes the player who has the most hoplite, the little blue hoplites. And it seemed like that player, in having those hoplites already, is in a strong position. So for them to also then get the first player marker, it's putting them in a position where they're already in a good position. Now they have first pick of those cards, the actions, It almost feels like it's rewarding the player who is already winning, which, and this is not an older game, it's a fairly modern game. By modern game standards, generally speaking, the player who is furthest behind is the player who would get an advantage going into the next round because it will allow them to catch up. There is a very small catch-up thing with the first player, so whoever is sitting to the right of the first player gets a free hoplite, which is a very small bit of compensation because there isn't a lot you can do with just a single hoplite. Now, one of the other things you can do in this game after your main action is you can take one single additional action, and you do this by either spending 2 hoplites, 2 gold orichalcum resources, or 2 of the creatures that you've already defeated. And it's not like any special extra actions. These are just allowing you to do more of the main action, so you can potentially do 2 main actions in one turn. I did really like this game. I would like to play it again and see how it goes the second time, now that I kind of understand what I'm working towards and how to score points and all that. But I did like this one. That was Orichalcum. Now, the third game that I played, the last game that I played, was called Neko Syndicate. And this is a small card game, just like a small rectangular box. In this game, everybody is playing as essentially like, not the mob boss, but like the right hand of the mob boss in this fictional world where cats, anthropomorphic cats, are part of the mob. It's very silly, or like Yakuza kind of style. But what you're doing in this game is you are constructing a pyramid of cards. So you've got your starting card, then you're you'll eventually be adding 2 cards underneath, and then 3 cards underneath those. And what you're doing is you have a little wooden token that represents your character, and you're going on these cards. Each card has 2 actions, one on each side. You choose one of the 2 actions, and then you are taking that action. Now, when you take that action, depending on where it is in that pyramid, that determines how many times you can take that action. So if it's at the very top, you can only do it once. If it's on the second level, you can do it twice. Third level, 3 times. Fourth level, 4 times. And the fourth level is the lowest level that you can have. And the actions are things like produce sushi. So all the resources in this game are sushi. There's 4 different colors. Each player has 8 sushi in their warehouse. And then once you have the sushi on the card, you place it on the card when you take the action, then you have other actions that let you move that sushi around. And so there's a biker who allows you to move it up or down 1 space, or whatever level it's on. If it's on the 3rd level, up or down 3 spaces. Another one of the actions allows you to swap sushi cube with one of a different color from your warehouse, and each of the cards at the top of the card has an objective that basically it wants a certain combination of sushi. So it might be 2 red sushi and a blue sushi and an orange sushi. Now some of the sushi is just sushi by itself. Some of it is also sushi with rice underneath, which is nigiri, I think it's called. Those ones you can't fulfill until you take the rice action or the cook action. When you take that action, any sushi cubes that are in the right position, you take that action and then you can move it up so it is now fulfilling that requirement. There's also a action where you are using the subway or the train, and each of the cards has these little, there's like 2 levels on the card, the upper and the lower level, and they each have these little train tunnels marked with a letter, either A, B, C, or D, and the subway lets you move the similar letters. So I could move a sushi at an A location to any other A location in my pyramid, and that may get that sushi to a place where it needs that sushi. At the end of the game, you are going to score points for everything that you have completed, all of the different things at the top of the cards. In addition to that, there are 3 objectives that you're trying to score throughout the game. And the ones in our game, I think, were complete 2 objectives where rice was required, where you had to cook the sushi. One of them was have 5 of the same letters among your subway tunnels. And then another one was use all 8 or fulfill all 8 of one color resource from your warehouse, one color of the sushi from your warehouse. And so there's the objectives, and then you're also scoring, and this is where things get really interesting, is in your pyramid, each level is going to score the points on the cards, and then it's multiplied by a multiplier based on the level. So the very top level is multiplied by 4. The second level, which is 2 cards, you add them all up and multiply by 3. Third level is 3 cards, you add them all up and then multiply by 2. And the lower level, you add all 4 up if you've gotten all 4 and multiply by 1. Now you will also lose points for every loose sushi cube that you have left over, and that affects your total for that row. And then if you missed cards in the pyramid, let's say you didn't fulfill you didn't build your full pyramid, you're also losing 2 points for each of those missing cards. And then you're also losing points for any of those objectives on the cards that you haven't placed any sushi on. So there is several different penalties for not completing things and leaving loose sushi. And it's hard to, it's a really thinky game. It's really hard to set your pyramid up so that when you're moving your cat down to those different actions, they're set up in a way where you can produce that sushi and move it to where it needs to go, and then cook it if it needs to be cooked. And you're only taking 4 actions each round, and it really is thinky. It's really quite a puzzle to figure out how to set that pyramid up so that your actions at the bottom that you're doing 4 times are really that's really important, because you may need to get 4 sushi all the way from the bottom of the pyramid up to the top of the pyramid, or all the way to the other side. And setting up your pyramid in a way where you can take actions that allow you to do that is really thinky and really tricky. But I really liked this game a lot more than I expected to. I really didn't know much going in, but it was really kind of, like I said, very thinky, very much a brain burner, and in a very good way. I really like this. I would get myself a copy if I can find one. But yeah, that was a really fun game, and that was the last game. Those are all the games that I played this past weekend, and I had a great time playing them. What did you play this weekend? Let me know in the comments. And have you played any of these 3 games that I played? What are your thoughts on them? Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.